Quilt Company. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel, I share the projects I'm working on and how I made them. And if you're watching this video when I'm releasing it in January of 2024, I just want to wish you a happy new year. I took a little time off just to kind of regroup and spend some time with family, but I'm back now and I've got this little Valentine's Day project for you. This project is made using the raw edge applique method. And in the video, I'm going to show you my method for raw edge applique. And I've also got a free pattern for you in case you want to make this cupcake project yourself. All right, I hope that you enjoyed the video. To make this little Valentine's Day cupcake, you need a few things. First, the template, which I do have available at delphilquiltco.com, and it's a free download. And it also comes with a few other templates too in case you want to make a smaller cupcake and maybe do an XO project and then a bigger version of that too. And I just printed this on regular copy paper. You do want to use 100% output. And then you need some type of fusible webbing. I'm using Heat and Bond Light and Sewable. It's an iron-on adhesive. You could really use any type that you prefer. Steam is pretty popular out there too, but I just had this on hand and it will work well for this project. And for the size piece that you need, you just need enough that's going to cover your cupcake and some hearts. And then for the fabric, you just need some reds and pinks or whatever you want to use for your cupcake. And one thing to make sure, if you plan on washing your project down the road, make sure you pre-wash all of your fabric. And I'm using fabric from the Anna collection from Laundry Basket Quilts. And for the big pieces of the cupcake, you need about 6.5 by 8.5 inch rectangles. You need 2 of those, one for the bottom, one for the top. And then a lot of little pieces for the little hearts. And that's just a variety. And you want fabric that's going to show up on whatever you pick for your frosting. And you also need a background square. And I'm using a 12.5 inch square. You could use a 10.5 inch as well. When I made this first one, I just felt like it was a little too small and I wanted a little more wiggle room. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with these yet, but I figured for the next one, a little bit bigger. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a smaller cupcake template. So if you want to make something tiny, maybe a real mini quilt, or this little greeting card like I made, that template's there for you as well. And if you want to see how I made the greeting card, just stick around to the end because I'll show a little bit of a video on how that came together. All right, to get started, I'm just going to first cut roughly around my template. You should use a paper scissors for this. I'm using one that I kind of use for paper and fabric, and then I just get it sharpened every now and then. But it does dull your scissors pretty fast. And just make sure that your piece of fabric is bigger than your template piece. So then I'm going to cut a rectangle of Heat and Bond just to fit on this back. I don't want it to go over the edges because then it gets just messy with your iron. So I'm just eyeballing it. And then I'll trim it up a little bit. So that should fit nicely. Again, I don't want it going over the edge of the fabric. And same with this one. I'm going to just save this because I have some little hearts I want to use that for later. And I'm going to iron this on. And you do want to follow whatever your instructions are for whatever the fusible webbing that you went with. And for Heat and Bond Light, it's pretty simple. You do want to use a dry iron for this product. And basically you're going to hold the iron on for about 2 seconds. And then you're going to cut the shape you need. And then when we go to the next step, it's about 6 seconds. So it's a pretty quick process. And same with this piece too. Because I made one before, I have some of these little scraps that already have the Heat and Bond on the back. I'm going to use those to make my little accent hearts. And you don't need too much of that. Probably about a couple 3-inch squares, 2-inch squares. Not much. Okay, now the next step is on the wrong side, so the paper side of the fusible webbing. I'm gonna just make sure my pattern is gonna be aligned. You could cut this out and then trace around it. I like to be a little quicker on that, and I'm just gonna actually put a little bit of basting spray, just a little bit on my pattern, and then it sticks pretty nice to that. You could also use a glue stick if you don't have basting spray. So then you can just take your scissors, since this is gonna stay in place, and then cut right on the line. I like this way because then I don't have to waste the time of cutting it once, tracing it, and then cutting it twice. I feel like this is just a faster way to get my templates cut out. And I'm just cutting right on that line. I'm using a pretty big scissors for this. You may find it helpful to have a small like embroidery scissors, because that way if you have a smaller pattern with tiny little cuts that you need to make, it's just a little bit easier. Okay, got my cupcake liner all done. And then same thing for the frosting. I'm just gonna put a little bit of the basting spray on there. And I'm gonna cut this one out. Now that I'm making this, I really have a craving for a cupcake, so I might need to go get one after this. All right, I'm gonna cut out some hearts. All right, so I got a few hearts cut out here, and I'm just gonna take the template and the paper backing off the heat and bond. And I don't know if I'm gonna use all of these hearts. I figured I can just cut more than I need, and then I can remove the ones that I don't wanna use. All right, now we're gonna make our cupcake. I wanna find the middle points on each of the 4 sides of the 12.5-inch square. So I wanna just use it as a guide to help make sure that I've got this centered. All right, I'm gonna remove the paper. Sometimes it can be a little hard to get an edge, but if you use your nail or just kind of fold it a little bit, it should peel off. I'm gonna iron the bottom first. And I need about 6 seconds now with my heat and bond light. I'm using a dry iron on this. And then the top of the cupcake, if you're wondering where to line it up, this edge here should line up with the edge of the bottom corner of the frosting. Same on this other side. And again, 6 seconds on this one. Now my hearts. I'm just gonna put 3 on there. Keep it simple. And then 6 seconds again on the top of these. So since this is the raw edge method of applique, I'm just gonna do some edge sewing right along the edge, probably about maybe a 1/16 of an inch from the edge. So here's how I did this other one. And I did add some stitching to make a little more of a 3D effect for the cupcake liner. All right, I'm gonna bring this to the sewing machine. So I do have just a regular foot on my sewing machine, and I have moved the needle all the way to the right, but you really could do this whatever way you want. I'm just going to do a straight stitch, but you certainly could do a satin stitch or a zigzag stitch or some other type of decorative stitch. It's pretty much whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to go nice and slow on this, especially when I get around to the curves. And there I've got the little cupcake all sewn, and now I just need to clip off some of the little loose strings. Alright, so he's all done, and then I've got this little card. I'm going to show you how to make this little card, but before I show you that, I just want to say thank you for checking out this channel. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and visit the little shop at delphilquiltco.com, and that is where you can get all these free templates. Alright, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.